I'm exhausted. You should know that. This is the bottom of the barrel.
You're exhausted.
Yeah. No. Should I talk to the camera or you?
It's up to you. Dealer's choice. I don't know.
Okay.
But you did have a bit of walking in today, because I saw you the whole Thursday through now.
Right.
And you did have a bit of like, am I still fucking here? Like,
oh, tonight?
Like, it was just like,
oh my
not
God.
that you let that out, but I saw you.
No.
It's wary.
It's like, never will I consider this like an actual job. Like, my hands are so baby soft. You know what I mean? I've never worked a day, it feels like. But then there are times when you do this thing that is very fun a lot, and you're kind of like, you lose your place, you're on the stage. Like the majority of my activities have been doing shows here, because the rest of the time I'm just kind of like bumming around. Yeah. So like, I'm starting to lose my mind. Even that tangent that I just went on, not really the most coherent I've ever been.
You're ready to just go back to...
I can't go to sleep. I got to do heroin. Do
you miss certain things? Like, how many times have you done... How long have you been headlining like this? Like, where you do whole
doing
weekends?
This hour?
Not this hour, but like when you're doing full weekends of shows like this. This is a bit excessive because it's like 6 shows.
6 shows. That's what everybody actually said. They were like, Laughing Skull is amazing. 6 shows. That's what people say about it.
Is that good or bad?
I actually have heard people say it good and bad. They like doing, a lot of people love doing a lot of shows, and by the end you really do feel kind of honed and stuff. But for me right now, in the middle, when I got the light on the 6th show, you're like, yeah, okay.
Here we go, laying this thing.
I do a lot of yelling. You can hear my voice is going out. There are a lot of jokes that I have that, like, you can't just say them. Mm-hmm. Like, in fact, they're not, like, if you looked at a transcription of them, they're not necessarily funny. Mm-hmm. I'm aware of this. But there's a performance about them, and a lot of times what's making people laugh is how worked up I'm getting about something that's so stupid. But if I don't get worked up, you can't hit the notes. Like, no one will laugh.
It's part of your arc of
exactly.
jokes. Where you
exactly. I have to be in, and then to get worked up, I also have to be in the bit. Like, I don't know if this is like appropriate for what we're doing. I have to be in it. I have to remember what I'm feeling the first time I thought it. I say this all the time on the podcast, but Bono said that he can't hit the high notes unless he's feeling the song. Mm-hmm. I feel very similar when I'm doing a joke, even though it's something silly. It's not a song. It's not poetry, but it's a joke. I can't make them laugh unless I'm remembering why I wrote the joke in the first place. So there's a lot happening. If there's anything...
You have to relive it like an actor almost.
Yeah, there is a little bit of acting involved. Yeah. And you know what's weird is I laugh at my own jokes a lot. That's almost... It's 99% always genuine. Because I am trying to...
And that 1%, what is that?
Theater. There are certain lines that they won't laugh if you don't do at least a smile. You know what I mean? Talk to like Anthony Jeselnik. He does like these really harsh jokes, and then he smiles. It's very calculated. I have certain moments where I have to. Yeah. We were talking about, hey, what happens when you die? That's a fake. That's a fake laugh. It's kind
that was
of
fake.
It's kind of fake. It's encouraged.
I thought you were laughing because it was like, holy shit, I just said this ridiculous thing. And every time I say it in the microphone, it feels ridiculous.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Yeah. We're talking about recapturing the first time I did say that was a real laugh. And every time since then, it's still real adjacent.
You're chasing that laugh.
But I'm chasing it. I'm chasing the dragon of the laugh. Yeah, man. But it doesn't mean it's fake. It's not fake, but there is a little bit of theater behind it. Because the audience looks to you first. They're like babies can read expressions. Crowds read a lot of cues from you, whether or not it's okay to laugh. You know what I mean? So if you're not, with a lot of my stuff, if it's a little bit weirder or if it's a little bit questionable, if I'm not having a good time and enjoying it, they're like, this guy's just preaching or something. Mm-hmm. It's gross. We don't like it.
Do you have I don't know if this is a question, but do you work on things like, specific things like context and transitions and things like that?
What do you mean by context?
Like, I was reading this thing where, like, the way, like, Tolstoy would describe how to write a perfect story would be, in order, would be context, transitions, character, then stories.
Interesting.
So he said context of like what your voice is, I guess, for comedy. Of course, I translated to comedy purposes, and then I'm like, yes. Oh, okay, your context is your voice. How do you speak? How do you talk? Are you doing voices? Are you doing jokes? Are you doing crowd work? Are you doing? And then transitions is just as important because that's how really shitty comics get good laughs for a whole hour.
Is just having
just because they know the two things, they know how to transition in and out, and so I don't know if do you believe it like that.
No, now that absolutely. In fact, this weekend. I've been doing that joke about breast milk, and if you saw me on Thursday and then you saw it on Sunday, it changed this weekend because the context of that, I was like, in my voice, what would my character say? That bit has been traditionally, every time I've been doing it, it's crazy that we drink breast milk.
Yeah. And
then by Sunday it became, it's amazing that we drank breast milk. Just that little shift. And it's that sort of work. You know how when you leave your computer on, it does all this like self-cleaning? Mm-hmm. Are you aware of that? Like it runs these diagnostics and stuff. That's what I think is happening when I'm like sleeping and stuff. I don't necessarily deliberately try, but next time I'm on stage, I'm like, no, I think the comedian that I am would be more amazed by breast milk than he would be revolted or disgusted or shocked by it. So that context certainly came in, and I did give that a lot of thought.
Isn't it crazy? You have to find the context in your own set.
Yes.
Joke's there.
Uh-huh.
That's one. It's done. But like the context that's the work.
Yes. It's a delicate balance of what do they expect? Mm-hmm. What have I established? Am I going to violate what I've established? Friendly, youth pastory kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Am I going to violate that and say something offensive, which I can? Or am I going to go with it and kind of merge with what I've established? And it's always an experiment. From joke to joke, it's always an experiment. I'm listening, trying to figure out what they need, which I often said.
Yeah.
Some of the weaker sets this weekend, I was like, where are you guys? I can't figure
That's
you out.
I love those moments when you're like, I'm going to win you back. I'm going to win you back one way or another.
Right.
And then you get laughs from the comics, but because the audience doesn't know what you're talking about sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if audiences are aware how much some comedians do their act no matter what. I'm going out of order. I'm switching it up. I'm dropping things. I'm adding things. In my back pocket is my act, which is like my album. And you're like, well, if they're not going to like the new stuff, we're going to merge in some of the more tried and true. But like, it's all about them. I don't want to creep you out, but it's like it's almost sexual. It's like you're having this intercourse. You know what I mean? I don't mean sexual intercourse, but there's an intercourse between the comedian and the crowd, and I'm listening and trying to figure out what they want me to do.
Yeah.
Do they want me to be rough with them? Do they want me to be playful? Should I be cute? Should I be sweet? Should I be authoritative? These are choices. Do they want me to be risky? Do they want me to be dirty? Do they want me to be clean? And each bit, that pause in between two bits is when I'm going, what joke should I do next? Because Isaac Whitty, who's a very funny comedian, is the guy who taught me that when you do an hour, if you don't know the order you're going in, it'll keep you in the moment more. It'll help you, like we were saying earlier, hit the notes more.
Mm-hmm. Were you sick of your own material at any point this weekend? Or not sick of it, but just...
Every time I would do... Tonight I did Fun Dad, for example, and it was because I couldn't find them. So I was like... Okay.
Oh.
I like last night at the 1 a.m. show at Relapse. That's like a home feeling for me. I could do anything. I could do all these new things, all these like weirder things, less fleshed out things. But if I'm doing a crowd and they're really wanting it to be a show, I can feel the money they spend. And they want it to be like a performance.
A little dirty.
Yeah, you're like, okay, here we go. Well, that's been happening. People are like, do the E-Trade voice. And I'll happily do it. I actually don't mind, but that's not what I was planning on coming out and doing. But I do ultimately want the crowd to leave happy.
It was so funny. Right before you went up, I stepped outside for a second, and I saw these two people looking at your poster outside, and they're like, "Is that really the E-Trade baby?"
Yeah, it's a mixed. It's not even a mixed blessing, but there is a strange thing when people see it's the E-Trade baby. I don't know what kind of comedy they think it's going to be. I do, write
it's
the
such
jokes.
It's
a broad thing. It's a commercial. It appeals to a lot of people. I don't know what I would imagine the guy who does the E-Trade thing to do stand-up. It's not what I do necessarily. I don't think they'd be like, that's what I was expecting. Like stock tips and kind of sarcasm.
Yeah.
I don't know what they need.
But if you put that up against something that I love what you did on Thursday, which is talk about death for a good 6-7 minutes.
And I never got there again.
And because I want to talk about death so badly, but it's not something you can just do. You can't just Carlin your way up there because that means 30, 40 years of...
I know what you mean. It's so great that you say that. I admire that in Carlin as well, and I've been doing it about 11 years and just starting to feel like maybe I could do that. Yeah. And it does work. It works better in short sets. It's weird.
Oh, really?
In an hour, we talked about this.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I guess
for
so.
me.
Yeah, that is good for you.
Because you can't just degrade to short sets.
Yeah, well, for some reason, you can come out and be dark and just be dark for 10 minutes. But if you're going to be an array of emotions, you have to think about how you're going to package them. I'm going to be silly right after I'm dark to cleanse the palate, sort of thing. But if you're just doing 10 minutes, you can be dark the whole 10 minutes. Just be like, death, it's weird, we're going to die. People will be like, or they'll hate you. By the way, I'd like to go on the record to saying anybody that talks this way like they have comedy figured out has a hardcore bomb right around the corner. Comedy loves to teach you that you can never understand it. It will fucking hit you in the nose.
Well, it would be possible to talk about it if the sample set was constant, which is you have the same audience every time.
Right.
And they had the same food, the same time of the day. Like
same
everything
sound,
is
same
the same.
Mood, yeah.
But the host did the same thing. It's impossible. Everyone's like a...
That's what makes it like golf or racquetball. It's one of those things where it's like your whole life you'll just be trying to master it and we'll never figure it out. And I think that's what makes it so rewarding. I really do. Because it could have gone terribly tonight. And honestly, it went fine. But like, I really could have bombed at any moment. You could lose them. Like there's a combination of words when you're on stage that you could say that will make them go away and never come back. The easy example would be something racist, misogynist, homophobic, hateful, something against Atlanta. Isn't it weird to think that even on one of the nights I called them dummies and it took me 10 minutes to get them back. And the whole time I'm doing the material, but I'm just trying to see if I could get them back.
What did you call them dumb? Like
First of all, I love being called a dummy, but I forget that not everybody does.
Not everybody.
And I did a joke about how you can't tell your apartment's haunted if you live in the city. Mm-hmm. So you could hear windows breaking, and you're just like, oh, Puerto Rico won, meaning they won a soccer game. Mm-hmm. And that I would say all day that that's not a racist joke at all. You live in New York on the days where there are soccer games. Whoever won goes nuts. And Puerto Rico is just my example in the thing. But they hear a race and they tense up because they're very white. And I was very playful with them. I was like, oh, I can feel you thinking that was racist. And then I was like, you guys are dummies. I say with a smile, thinking they'll get it. Because that's how I like to be joked with. I like to be put down and stuff. That's fine. But they were like, hey... Well, which is fine. I was actually wrong. I shouldn't have called them dumb.
Then you apologized and...
I did kind of. I was like, oh, I didn't mean it, guys. But then, like, even in that, they're like, oh, they took a break. They took like a 5-minute break.
A breather.
It's a breather. And that's the show that I sweated. And if I sweat, I know I didn't
Physically?
Physically, literally will start, like... It's weird that your body will go... Because your body thinks you're being attacked by a lion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fight or flight. It doesn't know that there's something... Your body doesn't know there's something called stand-up comedy that is basically stakeless. You're not going to be harmed. But your body thinks you might be harmed. So that's why it does all these things. You protect your neck. You protect your loins.
I do that thing. This thing.
That's the fear hole. Oh. That's because if you saw a lion, you would do that too. Because this is a kill stroke. This is a kill stroke. So you tense this. That's why the best way to stand on stage, and I do this very deliberately, is with your pelvis, your dick, your fucking loins out a little bit forward. It's a very powerful and weird way to stand, and it sends this weird evolutionary cue. Oh, this guy's like, he'll be the alpha for now. Even if you're a low status alpha, we should listen to this guy just for a minute. Look, his dick's out, basically, because on some level we're all just dum-dums. Look at stand-up. On an evolutionary basis, when you go on stage, they're looking at your face, your hair, your clothing, your smile, your eyes. In 2 seconds before you speak, they have a pretty good idea whether or not they're going to like you. They did this study where they showed people who didn't watch Last Comic Standing, this control group, photos of everybody that was on Last Comic Standing, and they said, "Who do you think won?" It's a comedy contest. Who do you think won? And they were like 93% correct. I'm making that number up. But they were very, very close. They were like, this guy's first, this person's second, third, fourth, fifth.
That's just off of a picture?
A photograph, a still photograph. Yeah. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's what, but, okay, so that's a handicap on one hand, but it's also this incredible power. That's why you're like, that's what I'm talking about.
The game could be fixed.
Yes. And you can violate it. Again, friendly guy. If I come out and tonight I said something about coming on someone's face, not me, but I was like Bill Cosby coming on his wife's face. That's a violation. Everybody's like, ha ha ha. He looks friendly and he said something filthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can take the same information that they have about us and use it to our advantage. Yeah. And they're going to be doing it.
It's interesting you say that because like there was this. I remember reading about a study that they did for teacher evaluations in California, and they were talking about how they took a sample set of students and they gave them a full evaluation, like after a year, and do 30 questions and all this, and then they shortened it and said evaluate the teacher about her first day of class. Mm-hmm. And the answers were the same. But they took it further and they kept on going down to the halfway through the lecture, and then down to and they did it down to her walking into the room.
Yes.
And it was just like
similar.
It was similar. It was within the margin of error.
This is our business. This is what we're dealing with. Yeah. The job of a comedian, and again, I'm glad I'm not performing again tonight because I do have a superstition about talking about comedy this way and then performing because we don't have it figured out. But if we're trying to figure it out, it's our job as comedians, to examine our lives, to examine how we come off, how we appear, what we think about, what's weird about us, what are we afraid of, and then present that to people. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of wonderful. You know how Thoreau, I think it's Thoreau, said, unexamined life isn't worth living. It's our job to go inward and examine and then report. And people reward us for that. And that's wonderful because that really does feel fulfilling. Yeah. So it's not just traveling and 6 shows and woe is me. I'm doing what we all should be doing, and I'm encouraged to do it. And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
We just put up Fade Up in memoriam Pete Holmes, 1979 to 2012, because I'm shot tonight.
Okay. We're done. Okay, so one more thing. One last thing. And we're good. We're good.